All right, you guys, are you ready for it? I've saved the big guns for this practice worksheet. This is a 2x2 factorial ANOVA that you're going to be computing. So first, let's go through the story problem, if only just to amuse myself. So researchers wanted to test the ability of different movies to induce sadness and whether these movies had different effects across genders. So they found 10 males and 10 females and divided them into two groups. One group watched Schindler's List, while the other watched Thelma and Louise. In other words, something that's oftentimes referred to in non-PC terms as a chick flick. We'll imagine that these are slightly biased researchers who wanted to prove a particular hypothesis. They then measured how many tears were shed by each participant. So what I want you to do is for now, I'm going to tell you the ANOVA design that's needed is a 2x2 factorial ANOVA. But what you want to then be able to do is to compute everything. Okay, sounds okay. I gave you some data earlier on your last worksheet. You were able to do this. What I want to show you is here's the data. So every person is either a male, there were 5 of those, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or a female. 5 females in this study. And each male was asked to watch either Thelma and Louise or Schindler's List. And each female was asked to watch either Thelma and Louise or Schindler's List as well. And then what we measure here is how many tears were shed by each participant. So what we want to know is, A, is there a difference between movies? And B, is there a difference between genders? And then C, is there an interaction between gender and movies such that different movies produce different amounts of tears for different genders? Okay. So once again, sounds pretty straightforward, except here's what I've given you. Nothing, 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 nothing. And then I ask you to create and fill in the appropriate ANOVA summary table. Okay. I also have not given you that. Luckily, what I have given you on previous worksheets, it's not on this one right now, is a guide to how to do this. So remember, take a look at past worksheets and remember how you created those before, or how they were created, what columns you have to include in each one, and how to calculate each one. You have all this information in the worksheets that you've already done. What you then want to do is go through and figure out for, let's say, the first one, and I'm just going to give this one to you. So for sum of squares A, or what we might call gender, how do you go about, factor A, gender, and this is sum of squares. How do we go about calculating our sum of squares for gender? So what I want you to do is to go up to the top, start at the top table, and this one's ultimately going to result in the sum of squares for gender. You need to figure out what do you put into each one of these boxes? How do you map this data? How do you map that in there? Where do these go? And most importantly, what I haven't given you at all on this one is any headings for these tabletops. This is what you'll do in your actual exam, is you will need to label these columns yourself. Complete each of them, put the data in the correct spot, and then do the calculations. It's a little bit more challenging, but I wanted to step you up one notch to get you prepared for the exam. Okay, so you'll do that for the sum of squares for gender. You'll figure out any other sum of squares you have to have in some of these other boxes and do that for each one of those as well. Okay, when you're done, we'll come back, you'll submit this as an assignment, and then we'll talk about it in class and check some of the answers you got. Looking forward to it. Good luck, you guys.